Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com here with the other part two of the Friday Night Magic Spotlight. This one's going to be focusing on upgrading a deck from standard to make it more viable or more powerful in the Frontier format. So this is one of the biggest hesitations I have from a lot of the players right now that I have in standard trying to get their feet wet in Frontier is they don't have any cons at Tarkir cards, or they don't want to spend a lot of money in that, but they have a standard deck. So I think that an easy way, in fact, two of our tournaments for Frontier have already been taken down by a standard deck that was just very, very, very subtly splashing lightning strikes in the deck. I think maybe Stoke the Flames might have been in there, but lightning strike was like an upgrade to the red-black aggro, just in replacing incendiary flow. And I think that was it. And it did very well. It actually was still quick enough to compete in the format. So this particular deck that I have before you is probably the most common deck over this standard season. It's been I would say, the only pillar that is really, this and red-white vehicles, but I think that U-White Flash has been more of a pillar of this standard season than any other deck. And so a lot of people have this deck, and they're familiar with this deck and how it runs. So what this deck tries to do, of course, is put out a Inspector first turn into a Smuggler's Copter second turn, and use the disruption of either Reflector Mage or Spell Queller on turn 3, or even Stasis Snare, and then they just ping down with Smuggler's Copter, get a Gideon. Gideon can hurry and switch gears, turn into a 5/5 beater quite quickly, or just keep spitting out 2/2s, or create an emblem that have Smuggler's Copter attacking for 4 and your Spell Queller's attacking for 3, and it's just short work after that. So U-White Flash is just a very all-around good deck to play, and there's multiple routes to go. For this one, I'm going to show you, you can go into the Collected Company version of this deck and go back in the old Bant Collected Company, because the pieces are all still here. This is almost the remnants of what Bant Coco turned into. It was kind of the boogeyman of last standard, and the remnants actually kind of turned into the pillar of this standard. So we're going to upgrade this deck. Of course, this is my opinion of what should go into this deck to upgrade it for Frontier. The best way I like to upgrade this is to go into an artifact tempo route. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put in Soul Artifacts. If you haven't played in Soul Artifact on the Smuggler's Copter, that's pretty fun, because it says Smuggler's Copter doesn't discard any of its abilities once you turn it into a 5/5 base power and toughness. It can attack. It is now an artifact vehicle creature with base power and toughness of 5/5 with his Soul Artifact that has these abilities of flying and whatnot. So in Soul Artifact is a great upgrade in this deck, because in Soul Artifact allows you also to go turn 1 Thraben Inspector and then put the Ensoul Artifact on the Thraben Inspector. Like, I don't like Ornithopter in this particular build. I think between the Smuggler's Copter, the Thraben Inspector, and my other two upgrades, it's going to have enough targets. So the next one is just an easy land target, which is going to be the Darksteel Citadel. The Darksteel Citadel allows you to have a 5/5 Indestructible out on turn 2, which, if anyone's ever played against that alone can take over the games quite easily. So Darksteel Citadel can just replace some islands and plains quite easily. Now, I think that this deck really, really benefits from a 2-drop Selfless Spirit's good with Avacyn, but I think these are the two cuts out of the deck. I think these are the two they're really, really good in this. People would say the most powerful cards in the deck currently, because it's really good. Selfless Spirit's a good answer to like Radiant Flames, and it's a good answer to a number of different removal spells you can then just make the Selfless Spirit eat, and it also can flip the Archangel Avacyn. So maybe at the end of this we'll have maybe like a 2 and a 1 of, but I think that with this route we want to go more aggressive with the Tempo Shell. So I think that a better tempo-based card is going to be the Hangerback Walker for this deck. Hangerback Walker has a lot of synergy with the Gideon, as when the tokens die, if you've Emblem Gideon, they're 2/2s. 2/2 Flying Thopters. So I think this is the next best little upgrade here, and the best little 2-drop rather than Smuggler's Copter. So you go turn 1 Inspector into a turn 2 Smuggler's Copter Hangerback Walker. Speaking of, though, another 1-drop, now that we're in the artifact themes, which I think that we've seen a lot of these other white flash decks actually go this more aggressive route to give them a little more game versus the Aetherworks Marvel deck. And so I do like the Artificer, the Dwarven Artificer out of white, the Toolcraft Exemplar for this particular deck as a 4 of. So now we can go turn 1 Toolcraft Exemplar or Thraben Inspector into a turn 2 Smuggler's Copter or in Soul Artifact, even if we drop a Darksteel Citadel. Actually, we can't go in Soul with Inspector unless now we don't have any white that will come in and play untap that turn. Port Town could. Like, the only scenario for this would be Port Town. First turn for revealing a planes, go Toolcraft Exemplar, Darksteel Citadel, and Soul Artifact. Probably won't happen that often, but a good scenario is either Thraben Inspector into a Smuggler's Copter Hangerback Walker, or Toolcraft Exemplar into one of those, or then the Soul Artifact in the mix. So it gives a very, very aggressive start with this deck. So the other cards that I think could easily be upgraded, I think Stasis Snare could be relegated to the sideboard, and Declaration in Stone is actually weaker than a card that I would put main, which is Silk Wrap. So Silk Wrap I'd bring in to probably either a 2 of or even a 3 of, and then the Thalia Heretics Healer could easily be just on the sideboard. So Silk Wrap I would put as a 3 of. It gives you that kind of tempo where exactly where you want it. Anything with mana cost 3 or less, which is almost everything in the format, can just be right here in the main. And I think that you could either put it in the sideboard or in the main board. There's a few other creatures going back into, I even thought about running, since there's like Smuggler's Copter, even running like the Seeker of the Way or Knight of the White Orchid as a 2-drop to keep you up with that tempo-based route. But I think that this is a very, very solid list. Still with the Reflector Mages, still with the Spell Quellers. It all just tempos out into a Gideon. You can even go a little higher curve with the Archangel Avacyn. For this reason, I think we'll keep the Silk Wraps, possibly maybe just go a 2 of and a Selfless Spirit, for example. You could easily go that route in the main, just depending on how you want to build this, what kind of flavor you want. You could have an Archangel Avacyn to just top out the curve instead of a Selfless Spirit, like that. You could run the Selfless Spirits here and then just not really worry about interacting with your opponent except for the Reflector Mage and the Spell Quellers, and then have this sort of brew with 2 Selfless Spirits and Archangel Avacyn. You'd even put an Always Watching in here, or a Dragonlord Dramoka, or a Dragonlord Ojutai, excuse me, in this. So speaking of sideboard upgrades, the sideboard gets really, really different because there's a lot better stuff going back. I don't think that this deck necessarily needs the Scatters or the Spell Shrivels. Rebuff is okay. It's actually pretty decent in the format. So is Negate. The Dispel is probably a card that you do want because it will protect your early Toolcraft Exemplars and Smuggler's Copters especially. So Dispel, I think, wants to be heavily played in the sideboard. And I think between Dispel, you could have like a package, Revolutionary Rebuff, Dispel, Negate type package, and that would work out just fine. And you wouldn't have to run these hard counter spells. We can still run Void Shatter. Always Watching could still go in here. I don't like Always Watching. I think just relying on Gideon's the right route to go. Anything of Blessed Alliance. I'm surprised this one doesn't have Blessed Alliance in this particular one. Like a Blessed Alliance is a 1 of. Declaration of Stone's still fine, but I still like the Silk Wrap. But as far as options, you could run like a 1 of. Declaration, a 1 of. Just a bunch of 1 ofs in the side. I still do like Thalia as a sideboard card. Fragmentize is fine as well. Fragmentize is still pretty decent in Soul Artifact type decks. I don't know if it's quite needed though, with Silk Wrap really playing that role against. I guess it can't kill a opposing Smuggler's Copter. I don't think we need like Sky Sovereign or Jace in the sideboard for this particular one. We have a very good tempo based plan in the deck. But I think some other key cards in this one is going to be cards destroy, target, attacking. Maybe I should spell target right. So the card that I really, really like is Surge of Righteousness. I think Surge of Righteousness gives you the play against a Tarka Red. It also can be played against red-black aggro that you'll see a few decks every now and again. So some amount of Surge of Righteousness should be in the sideboard. A few other cards I even thought about that could go in this because it has good synergy and as a flash card is Secure the Waste, whether this be a one of instead of an Archangel Avacyn. So Secure the Waste here, whether Archangel Avacyn just goes in the sideboard for a later game. It's still a very, very powerful card, and this is a very, very powerful strategy even with Frontier. Even with cards like Siege Rhinos out there and cards like the Jace Vryn's Prodigy, these cards interact very well. Reflector Mage is still kind of messy for Jace to deal with. And then, especially when you get a Hangerback Walker or a Copter out early, all those cards can be kind of awkward for like a 4-color control deck to actually interact with. So I think that this is very, very viable in the format. So, anywho, any other cards that you would think of to upgrade this deck? You can go a lot of different routes. I just particularly like this deck because it gives it a little more of a jump, a little more of a tempo-based feel with a very aggressive 3-2, and an Soul Artifact can always threaten your opponent, and then go into the good stuff. So that they don't take care of the early game, then the good stuff game will outvalue them and whatnot. So anywho, that's my first take at White Blue Flash being upgraded. We might look at the Coco version later on, but for this Friday Night Magic, every FNM Spotlight, I'm going to try to give you a Frontier upgrade to a standard deck. This has been Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com. Thanks for watching.